This is a lesson on composition of functions. And excuse my voice, I've been sick for a few days, so my voice is more raspy than normal. So here are two functions. So composition of functions, here are two functions, and part A, we'll do part A first. So part A says to find the composition of Q composite P with the input 4. So this circle right here is not multiplication. So a lot of students think that's multiplication, but it is not multiplication. It means composite. So, so when it says composite, Q composite P, and 4 is the input, what you put inside the function, this is how you're going to do it. So I'm going to do part A right here. Q composite P with the input 4. So the first thing I do is I'm going to rewrite it. So how I'm going to rewrite it is I put the Q outside first, and then inside the Q, so we're familiar with functions, right? So you have a Q function, and then you have the input inside. So then the second function is P. So I'll put the second function inside the parentheses. So I have P right here, right? And then I'm going to put parentheses to say now there's an input inside of that. So again, let me say this again. The first function, Q, is the one that goes on the outside. The second function, P, goes inside of that. And then inside of the P is going to be the input. And the input is the number 4. So 4 goes inside of that. So I rewrite it in a way that is more familiar. So I'm getting rid of this composite symbol, and I'm rewriting it in a way that looks more familiar, which is Q on the outside as a function of P with the input of 4. Okay. So now if you remember order of operations, we always do inside the parentheses first, and then we move out. So inside then out. So looking at this, the inside, the most innermost parentheses that we see is going to be P parentheses 4. So P with 4 as an input. So I'm going to ignore the Q right now. So ignoring the Q, and I only look at this. So put your eyeballs down here, ignore the Q. So just looking at P of 4, what is P of 4? Well, P of 4 is when you put 4 into P, and what do you get? So I'm going to plug the 4 into P and see what I get. So here's my P of X is equal to this. So if I put P of 4, so I do this on the side, P, if I put 4 in here, I get 4 squared plus 4. 4 squared plus 4 is 16 plus 4, which is 20. Okay? So P of 4 is actually equal to 20. So this P of 4 here, I'm going to rewrite this as 20. Okay? So that's P of 4. And originally I told you to ignore this Q. Well, now we no longer ignore it. So now we look at the outside function, and we have Q of 20. So now looking at Q of 20, what that means is I'm going to plug in 20 into my Q function to see what I get. So what do I get when I plug 20 in for Q? So if I plug 20 in for Q here, I get Q of 20. So let me zoom out here. Q of 20 is equal to, so I plug 20 into this function, I get the square root of 20 plus 5, which is the square root of 25, which is just equal to 5. So therefore, this answer is 5. So again, composite means a function within a function. So I have Q as the outside function and P as the inside function. So I rewrite it like this. I work on the inside function first, and then once I get an answer for that, then I work on the outside function. Now let's see what happens when this is reversed. So now looking at part B. So part B here, I said find P composite Q of 4. So all that means then is I have P on the outside function, and the inside function is the second one. So the first one is always the outside function, and the second is always the inside function. So the inside function in this problem is going to be Q. So I'm going to write Q right here, and inside of that function is that number 4. So I'm going to write 4. Okay, so again, order of operations, we work on the inside parentheses first. I only look at this part right here. So Q of 4, what is Q for? Well, if I plug 4 into for Q, if I plug 4 in for Q, I get, I'm sorry, if I plug 4 in for X here, I'm going to get Q of 4 is equal to, I plug 4 in here, I get 4 plus, root 4 plus 5. So that'll give me root 9, which is just 3. So Q of 4 is now equivalent to the number 3. Okay, and then outside of that is p. So now I apply the p. So now when I look at p of 3, what do I get when I plug 3 in for the p function? So I plug 3 in here. If I plug 3 in here, I get p of 3 is equal to 3 squared plus 4, because I plug 3 in for x. I get 3 times 3 is 9 plus 4 is 13. So here my final answer is 13. So voila, that is a lesson on composite functions. Let me know if you guys have any questions on this.